Uh-oh. Motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Jared Anderson's latest lackluster performance and the criticism that ensued as top-ranked matchmaker scrutinized his win over Marios Kollias of Greece.
But it's Jared that's cooked.
Jared Anderson got back to winning after his loss to Martin Bakole, but his performance and victory Friday night didn't impress everyone at his promotional company. If Jared Anderson don't want it, he ain't gonna get it. Posted Bruce Trampler, a matchmaker with Top Rank who was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame back in 2010. Today looked like all the people at Top Rank worked harder for him than he worked for himself.
Bruce Trampler noticed it. Tim Bradley noticed it.
Jared looked like there was just somewhere else he would rather be than in the ring with Marios. Jared Anderson, who was spotlighted heavily by Top Rank in recent years and pushed as the next great American heavyweight while he developed in front of our eyes, reportedly went against his promoter's wishes. By taking the fight with Martin Bakole last August, Anderson was knocked out in 5 rounds. The 25-year-old Jared Anderson won a unanimous decision over the 12-3-1 Marios Kollias while buried deep on Friday's preliminary undercard on ESPN+, only the second fight out of the gate on a show headlined by Dennis Berinchyk versus Keyshawn Davis at the Theater at Madison Square Garden. He is now 18-1 with 15 KOs. In a since-deleted post on X, either Anderson or someone with his team responded to Trampler with 3 tears of joy, emojis, and 3 words. This is hilarious. Trampler, needless to say, was not amused himself. Hilarious? Nobody's laughing, Trampler replied. You can be a world champ if you truly want it.
Jared doesn't.
Sad if you don't realize your potential and give your best effort, but that's up to you, champ. We still love you. Anderson struggles with mental health, as well as questions about his development in the boxing ring, were evident prior to his loss to Bakole.
You will excuse me if I don't play the world's smallest violin for Jared Anderson's squandered potential.
These days, we're always hearing about struggles with one's mental health, but what exactly encompasses these struggles? Are we talking about a clinical diagnosis?
Bipolar disorder, depression, schizophrenia, what exactly are we talking about? What struggles?
Because if we're not talking about a diagnosis in a clinical setting, a medical one, then what exactly are we talking about? What, that life is hard? That you have to work hard?
That nobody's gonna come in and save you?
And that nothing worth having in life comes easy, but that's what today's youngsters want, which is why they are a far cry from their predecessors in the American boxing scene. Put simply, these guys don't want it bad enough. In the summer of 2023, ahead of his fight with the former heavyweight title holder Charles Martin, Anderson spoke with Joy Rones.
That's right, Jones.
For a feature segment on ESPN, my toughest fight is outside of the ring, Anderson told Jones. My hardest fight so far in life is just staying the course and trying to stay true to who I am, but keeping a steady, clear mind to the top. I know I'm good at this, and I know I can have fun in this, but this might not be just what completely makes me happy, Anderson said to Jones at another point. Jones responded by talking about Anderson's obligation to succeed and how he would let people down if he quit.
Bear in mind that this was well before he actually fought Martin Bakole and lost.
But it's the pressure, though, Anderson responded, tears in his eyes and emotion in his voice. I'm 23!
Let me tell you something about life. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Would have been a very good time to break out that token speech from Sylvester Stallone in Balboa. No, I'm not too broken up about it, and I don't consider it a Greek tragedy that yet another young American fighter is unmotivated and he doesn't really want to do this. He may have the ability and the talent, the raw tools, but what he's missing, which is probably the most important thing, is the desire. If you don't want it, then don't do it.
Because this is not a job where you can punch in a clock and just go through the motions. You're gonna get yourself hurt.
If this is what you look like with a part-time boxer, a roofer who moonlights as a boxer, who couldn't even keep his trousers up during the fight, if this is what you look like, it only gets harder from here, you know.
It doesn't get easier.
And the feeling that I'm beating a dead horse by saying that I sold my stock in Jared Anderson a while ago, long before he fought Martin Bakole, which is why I knew Martin would beat him.
Don't you remember he was spiraling out of control? All of those arrests and a high-speed chase with the police?
I don't want to hear about Jared Anderson's upbringing, because there are that many more individuals from impoverished countries that have the same or worse upbringing, the same or worse circumstances than Jared's. Spare me the sob story. For those individuals whose backs are against the wall and boxing is their only way out. It's the only thing they're good at, and it's their meal ticket out of that.
Next to them, Jared Anderson would appear a spoiled brat.
If what this is about is a lack of desire and a lack of motivation, just quit while you're ahead. Hang up your gloves now, because it's not going to get easier from here. It's going to get harder.
That may seem extreme.
Telling a young guy like Jared Anderson to hang him up now when he only has one professional loss, but boxing is too dangerous a sport and too jealous. It requires a maximum commitment for you to get ahead, and if you ain't got it, you ain't got it.
He doesn't, and I noticed that a couple of fights ago, well before he fought Martin.
Chalk it up to Jared Anderson being a reflection of the generation he's in, the generation that he represents. Today's youngsters don't really want to work hard for anything.
They don't really know how good they've got it.
Compare your own lives to the life of someone your same age that's in a third world country that doesn't have the opportunity to fight on a big platform in front of a lot of people for vast sums of cash.
What may not seem like much to you, but that's because you don't know what real poverty is. Real suffering.
And we've been all through this. Let that opportunity go to someone who actually wants to be there, because you don't.
Bruce Trampler let him have it on social media. Timothy Bradley was letting him have it during the live broadcast. Everybody could see Jared is not motivated. He's dejected. There's something else that he would rather be doing. Then go do that.
It's the sense in wasting Top Rank's time and money to promote your fights when you don't really want to fight.
This is what you look like with Marios Kollias. It doesn't get easier from there. It gets harder. The further up the ranks you climb, the more difficult the fights become. And you don't want that.
The more demanding this job becomes. So maybe you want to sell real estate or sell cars.
Explore being a career criminal. Get yourself locked up like your brother.
If that is more appealing to you, then just go do it, because right now what you're doing is wasting everybody's time over something you clearly ain't got a passion for. You don't really want to do this.
There's not enough pep talks in the world from Roy Jones Jr. or anybody else that are going to compensate for the work that you're supposed to be putting in. He came in at about 250 pounds.
Having last fought in August.
No discipline, no desire. That's fine. Just go do something else.
Because I could go the rest of my life without seeing Jared Anderson's half-assed efforts being broadcasted on my television and yours for something he doesn't want to do.
Pack it up, Buttercup.
Now over to what is a more motivated fighter, at least more motivated than Jared Anderson. Xander Zayas' 9th-round knockout of Germany's own Slava Spomer.
Xander continues to look the part.
Looking like he's supposed to look in a developmental fight. I would say that's what this was. Slava Spomer was unbeaten going into this fight with Xander Zayas, who fought with all of the motivation, speed, and sharpness I've become accustomed to seeing from the Puerto Rican youngster.
He's fast and he's sharp.
So he looked on Friday. There were a couple of moments where the punches sailed kind of low. I don't get the sense that Xander was deliberately targeting Slava Spomer's family jewels. Seems more that in targeting his midsection, the punches were coming in a bit low, and between that and Slava Spomer bending at the waist and knees and trying to protect his midsection,
What were intended to be body shots landed too far south of the belt line.
so I don't think it was deliberate. I don't think it was on purpose. Xander was looking for scoring blows wherever there were openings, and where there weren't, he was searching, trying to create opportunities, trying to open the guy up. That takes effort.
But he looked sharp, Looked fast.
Good balance of offense and defense from Xander, which I think is his standout quality, that he's able to let go of punches with some regularity, but be responsible while he does it, slipping and rolling with punches, catching punches.
It's good.
Though people still want to see more in terms of power from Xander, more in terms of landing with authority given his size for a junior middleweight, I can only come back to his age. He's 22. He's not as strong now as he will be at 25 or 30, when a man's physical prowess really peaks.
He hasn't peaked yet.
You kidding? Not at 22. I don't think he's ever going to be the Ernie Shavers of these weights, junior, middle. But I do think there will come a time when he will land with more authority, and we are just not there yet, not while he's 22.
Don't be too overly critical, because he did knock the guy out. He did stop him.
So what's next for Xander Zayas on the heels of his latest win? Well, he is ranked at number 5 via the IBF, just behind Josh Kelly, who I would pick Xander to beat.
He's ranked at number 5 via the IBF.
Number 3 via the WBC, behind Israel Madrimov and Sergey Bohachuk. Stiffer competition, I'd say, than what you see in the IBF's rank standings. Ranked at number 5 via the IBF, number 3 via the WBC,
Number 1 via the WBO.
and that's the route I think he will peruse. That's the path I think he's going to take to fight for an alphabet title in the not-so-distant future. We know that this is a path that Top Rank often uses for their fighters to get them to a belt. The World Boxing Organization. Xander is ranked at number 1.
Terence Crawford is still interim champion, but we all know that Terence Crawford will not be staying at junior middleweight. In his next fight, he's moving up to super middle.
He's fighting Canelo Alvarez.
And win, lose, or draw in that fight, I don't see Terence moving back down to junior middle afterwards.
Thus, Xander Zayas versus Terence Crawford is not a thing, it's not a viable possibility, which means, in the not-so-distant future, Terence will vacate that WBO interim title, at which point Xander Zayas can fight for it against Charles Conwell or Josh Kelly
Or Jorge Perez.
any one of those guys in the WBO's ranked standings at this time with more intent to put pressure on the reigning champion Sebastian Fundora, who's supposed to be facing Cordell Booker in a few weeks' time, in defense of his 2 alphabet titles that many feel he's been holding hostage ever since he won them.
I think that Xander Zayas and Top Rank jointly will put pressure on Sebastian to either defend the belt or give it up.
And because he has 2 of them, I think he may elect to give it up. Give up the brown belt, keep the green one.
So I think that might go.
For those who may have been growing impatient and waiting for Xander Zayas to take on more game, Quarry, he's very close to challenging for an alphabet title, though whether or not Sebastian will oblige him, I'm not optimistic.
And I don't think Xander's going to go on an undisputed run. No, I'd say he probably wins the WBO, maybe defends it once or twice, then moves up to middleweight, which I think will be a better weight for him. I think he might look more impressive there.
Often regarded as the heir apparent to the Puerto Rican throne of boxing in this generation of fighters, Xander really is the most promising of all the unbeaten up-and-comers coming out of the island of Puerto Rico. I think that middleweight, he will look even more impressive there in a division that sorely needs a shot in the arm.
And when he's allowed to fill out even more, not boiling down to 154, not having to cut that extra 6 pounds, that may manifest in his punching power.
And we'll see. Congratulations to him for his knockout win over Slava Spomer. Finally, we come to the main event of that same card, the WBO lightweight title fight between Dennis Berinchyk, then champion, then unbeaten, and Keyshawn Davis, the newly crowned WBO champion. He finished the fight in much better fashion than I thought he would. I thought Keyshawn would win a decision. He went a step further and knocked out Dennis. 4 rounds, 2 knockdowns. Very easy.
Both off of body shots.
Body was the ticket. At the start of the fight, you see Dennis Berinchyk circling away from Keyshawn Davis, seemingly waiting for the right moment, the right opening to jump in and put punches together. He found that difficult to do because Keyshawn's taller and longer than he is.
He's got enough height and reach. He doesn't need to be close to Dennis to touch him. Dennis knew that.
Circling away and trying his best to measure his approach, there just wasn't a safe moment to jump in and let punches go. When he jumped in, he'd either end up in a clinch way
Wait.
too far on the inside,
He'd overshoot it.
or he'd end up on the receiving end of Keyshawn Davis's punches, and the power was noticeable. The first knockdown, he moved Dennis Berinchyc's entire body with that body shot. Keyshawn had a noticeable size advantage in the fight.
Very big for 135. I don't imagine he's going to stay there long.
And that was the trial for the otherwise formidable Dennis Berinchyk. It didn't take Keyshawn Davis long to score a knockdown, didn't take him long to draw blood. I think he busted up Dennis's nose. Managing the distance against Keyshawn was too difficult between his height, his length, his speed, and his poise.
Because he was very calm.
Taking his time and picking the right punches, landing those punches, that's what it all boils down to. For Dennis, he just couldn't get his distance down. It's not safe on the outside because you're a sitting duck out there. It's not safe on the inside either because when you are on the inside, you're getting overpowered. You're getting outfought. Didn't take Keyshawn Davis long to get him out of there.
Impressive.
I think it was. More impressive, at least, than knocking out a glorified prospect in a Frank Martin or a super featherweight in a Lamont Roach.
Impressive.
Some measuring how much credit they want to give Keyshawn Davis for making this look very easy. Dennis Berinchyk was an unbeaten guy going in, a lightweight, not a smaller fighter moving up in weight, comes from a great amateur background, a solid fighter, just not solid with Keyshawn, so you got to give him the credit.
See a lot of people commenting on Keyshawn Davis' size, that he's very big for 135 pounds.
Almost like they're looking for a reason to discredit him and his victory, that he's too big for 135. Were you clutching at your pearls when you saw Rafael Espinoza? 6'2" at 126. Were you clutching at your pearls with Sebastian Fundora? 6'4" at 154.
No, right?
Right, so don't talk to me about how Keyshawn's too big. It's unfair because that's what you're trying to do, and I can see that from a mile away.
Yeah, he's big for 135, but he made the weight, and they're called weight classes, not height classes.
Do I think Keyshawn Davis will be able to stay in character if and when the time comes that he moves up to 140? I do. I think he's going to be even better up there. I think he's going to be a monster.
Because it's not just size with Keyshawn.
It's pedigree, it's poise, it's timing, shot selection. He's got more going for him than just being a big 135-pounder. I think that Keyshawn will do very well at 140. I think that will carry up to 147, but I think he would be pushing the envelope at 154. That will be his ceiling. But that will be many fights and many months and many years from now.
Obviously.
But I do think Keyshawn Davis will be able to stay in character as he moves up in weight because, I reiterate, he's got more going for him than just being a big 135-pounder.
The kid just won his first title, and you're already talking about him moving up in weight?
I am, because he's not going to unify with his buddy Shakur Stevenson. He's not going to have any luck with Gervonta. Vasyl Lomachenko still has the IBF title, and he hasn't yet made up his mind if he's going to keep fighting or retire.
If he keeps fighting, I don't think he's going to fight Keyshawn Davis. If he doesn't keep fighting and he retires, the IBF title will then go to the winner of Muratalla versus Abdulaev. But first, you gotta make that fight, and it ain't made yet.
Bottom line, I don't think Keyshawn goes on an undisputed run at 135. I think he's got maybe one or two more fights before he moves up to 140, and maybe he goes on an undisputed run up there. Which is why I'm already broaching the subject of Keyshawn Davis potentially moving up in weight in the not-so-distant future. Excellent showing. Excellent.